Well, hello, and welcome to episode 103 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. Michaela, you made it back from your cruise safe and sound with lots of good drink ideas for all of us. Hopefully, some tropical ones, because I'm going to need that. It cooled off, like, I don't know, the temperature went down like 50 degrees
Yeah.
overnight last night. I hate it. I need something tropical in my life. So hopefully, you brought something good back. You brought back some sunshine, maybe. You brought back your sunny personality. So I guess
Yeah.
that is nice, I guess. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I promise all the drinks that I have picked for the next couple of weeks have nothing to do with coconut. So you're
oh,
welcome.
good. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
You're welcome.
that's right. I would send you back out to see if you would have brought me more coconut drinks after that debacle that was the Terminator 2 coconut. But we're done talking about that because this week we were talking about something that is fall flavored. It is classic. It's a riff on a classic. You told me you were drinking like a boatload of these on the boat you were just on, the French 75. We're doing a riff on that, which is really fun. And we're going to be talking about one of the best, one of the all time great sports movies that's out there. That is Rudy. But before we get into that, I wanted to, take a quick moment to let everyone know we went and saw Wakanda Forever this week. It's our first ever Patreon exclusive episode. So if you want to find out what we thought about Wakanda Forever and get a bonus cocktail for that one, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drink the movies. Yeah, and hopefully you go check that out and join us there if you feel so inclined. But, Michaela, the leaves have changed. My leaves have all fallen because it's cold now, but leaves are changing. Kids are back in school. Universities are full blown educational mode. But more
Yeah.
importantly, college football is here. Everyone loves it. The season is winding down, but our season is just getting fired up. So why don't we take a quick break and we will be right back to mix up that riff on the French 75, the Irish 75, and talk about this week's cocktail.
So this week we're mixing up a variant of the French 75 with the Irish 75, which is kind of fun, exciting for any of you Irish fans, the Fighting Irish. And this cocktail is, I think, a perfect fall day in South Bend kind of cocktail. It really, you're going to have this and you're going to have a bouquet of sharpened pencils to give to your loved one because school is in session. It's, the leaves are changing or falling. It's really just a gorgeous kind of take. You can make it more fallish if you want by all the ingredients that we're going to talk about. Brian, you're laughing
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah.
But I'm
I,
telling you, this is like
you,
the perfect fall drink because I feel like with the French 75, you have some champagne in there, you got some sparkle, it's a little bit more upscale. The Irish 75 is like a down homey version. It gets the job done, but you can really fall it up and make it very autumny.
You can make it very out of me. Yeah, you lost me with a bouquet of sharpened pencils. I have to admit, but yeah, this is perfect for a fall day. It is a really good cocktail. French 75, that is too pretentious. You don't want to have one of those when you're watching college football. You want something that has some Jameson in it. Something with some cider in it. Something to hit all those fall notes as you're cheering on your team to victories. So we got this recipe. It comes from herloyalsons.com, which I think was a podcast. It looked like they might have already done their last episode, but we'll make sure to put a link to their show description in our show description. So follow that and check it out. But this comes together super easy, Michaela. It's probably stuff that you already have or might already have, or if you don't already have it, you should have it because it's football season. Let's put one of these together. So into a shaker tin, throw 2 ounces of your favorite Irish whiskey in there. Like I said, mine was Jameson. Yours should also be Jameson. Tullamore Dew is acceptable, but use whatever you want. So 2 ounces of that, a half ounce of lemon juice, shake that up with some ice and strain it into a champagne flute. It's going to look very nice. And then you're going to top that with your favorite cider. I like a drier cider. I used Strongbow, which was what they used in the recipe on the website. That is a really nice cider from the UK. Certainly there's, 10,000 ciders now at the grocery store you go in, and there's ciders from all around the US, from the UK, Australia, everywhere has some ciders. So whatever cider you want to use. And that's really where you can kind of, change the tune of this one a little bit,
Yeah.
which is what I think you did, Michaela,
Yeah.
on yours, because you were just got back from your trip, so we didn't get to make this one together. We had to make it on our own. So, what'd you use then for yours?
So for the original, I went ahead and used Magners because that's an Irish cider, and I was really trying to go with the Irish theme. However, I switched it up because I only had one left, and so I added a pumpkin cider to this, and that really made it a lot more folly. What I recommend, though, is if you're going to do that and you're going to get something that's sweeter, you might want to double the amount of lemon or put another quarter ounce. So rather than use half an ounce of lemon, you could use 3/4 of an ounce of lemon just to give it a little bit more acidity, because you're going to want to balance it out and not have that get lost. Because I felt that when I did it and I kept the lemon the way it was, it really just kind of got lost in the drink. And you want to keep that to add another profile of flavor.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. We'd mentioned kind of the similarities with the French 75, and kind of that drink gets pulled off because it's super bone dry, right? Because that one is gin and champagne, which is dry. So if you use a nice, English cider, or your Irish cider, or some of like the smaller, more artisanal ciders here in the US, those are going to be like a drier style of cider. But if you're using something like a Woodchuck or an Angry Orchard, those are going to be pretty sweet. So yeah, you definitely want to give maybe a little bit of an extra, squeeze that lemon extra hard when you're putting it in there. Just get a little bit more lemon juice on there. But I made this for myself last night, Michaela. I was drinking it and I said to myself, this is really delicious. These flavors are flavors I like. Jameson, of course, I love that. One of my favorites, one of my go-tos. I really like dry cider. Another one of my favorite just drinks. But I don't know, something about this drink. I was drinking it last night. I'm like, this is delicious, but I don't know that I would ever make this again.
Yeah, really? I thought this would be right up your alley, because you do love all of these things. Putting it together, I thought was really good.
I know it was, and it was delicious. And I was sitting there enjoying myself drinking it. And I just thought, when am I ever going to feel inclined to mix some Jameson and lemon juice and apple cider together again? I don't know, but I'm glad that I did, because it was super good. Maybe I will prove myself wrong. I don't know, but that was my takeaway on it. What did you think? What about the regular dry and then your pumpkin themed one?
So the pumpkin one was good.
Pumpkin all the time.
I am a basic woman. So I liked the pumpkin one. I will say I went right back to the regular cider. We ended up having something, I don't even remember what it was, because I was out of Bulmers, but we had another can that I used of regular cider. The key is really the sweetness for me. You've got to use a dry cider for this one, or else it risks getting too syrupy. I think this is one of my new fall favorites, because I'm not really good at doing like a random Tuesday night whiskey drink. Usually I'm a gin or vodka person. That's usually a go-to spirit of mine. So I really liked this one, and I definitely will be doing it next fall, or anytime the Irish are playing and I want to cheer on the Irish, which doesn't happen very often because I didn't go to Notre Dame. So
yeah, that's true. You're from Texas. You're not allowed to cheer for Notre Dame for sure. So, I guess this would make a really good kind of like a dinner cocktail. This time of year, Thanksgiving, Christmas season, you're having a get together. Maybe like a French 75 is, like I said, a little bit too dry. Maybe it's not as widespread on the crowd appeal. Try something like this. I think that you'll really like it, and you should definitely give it a try. Like I said, both really tops on that. But Michaela, for now, I think we better take our Irish whiskey, we better take our cider, and we better head into the locker room, because it is about time to take the field for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and talk about this week's movie, Rudy. We'll be right back.
Sometimes a winner is a dreamer who just won't quit.
Hey, you guys! My son's going to Notre Dame!
I'm here to play football for the Irish.
You're 5 feet nothing, 100 and nothing, and you got hardly a speck of athletic ability. In this lifetime, you don't have to prove nothing to nobody except yourself.
A true story from the creators of Hoosiers.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
Spoiler warning for Rudy. If you've not yet seen Rudy and you don't want to know how it ends, you should press pause right now. Go fix yourself up a Irish 75, drink that, have another one because it's delicious. Go watch Rudy and then come back and we can chat about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you haven't seen the movie Rudy, you still might know the way that it ends because Rudy Rudiger is kind of a hero in the sense of American heroes for sure. So this movie came out in 1993. It was directed by David Anspaugh, who also directed another sports great, Hoosiers, and it stars Sean Astin as our title character Rudy, a very, very fresh-faced Jon Favreau as Rudy's friend slash tutor slash desperate to find a girl, D-Bob. It also stars Ned Beatty as Rudy's father and Charles S. Dutton as the groundskeeper turned mentor, Fortune. So, Michaela, we're talking about Rudy. We're talking about football. We're talking about the Fighting Irish, which is one of the all-time great sports programs in the United States. But what about sports movies in general? What are, when you think about your really great sports movies, I think of Hoosiers. I think of
Yeah.
Rocky, of course, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams. Those are the movies that everyone thinks of when they think about, kind of the best sports movies. But those movies are almost like sports as a periphery. They're more coming of age stories and more like self-enlightenment stories. And that, I think, is what Rudy is. Because if you're watching the movie Rudy, you're like, this is about a kid who's playing football. Very little football in this one.
Right. No, I think that's one of the reasons why people like sports films so much in general, is because no matter what the sport is, I mean, think about it. Blind Side won a bunch of Oscars. It's very little to do with really the act of American football. Like you said before, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, even things like the Mighty Ducks or Slapshot. Very little of it actually has to do with the technical merits of the sport that they're talking about. It is more about the introspection of how sports and life kind of follow these interesting cycles, how you have team members in life and you have team members on a field or in a ring or whatever. And I think that's one of the reasons why people like sports films so much. I definitely prefer sports films to most sports in general. So yeah, I don't know. I do find it interesting that there's so many ways to communicate and connect with people via sports films. Whenever I am meeting someone and I want to get to know them, I ask them what their favorite movie is. And usually they say, I don't know, but they always have a favorite sports film 100% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the best of sports films for sure are based on true stories, or at least have taken some strings from truth. Like I mentioned, Rocky, Raging Bull, all of those draw on some real life comparisons. And this one is based on a true story. So let's get into the story a little bit, Michaela. So this one starts out, we're following Daniel Eugene Rudy Rudiger. Rudy had like 14 like brothers and sisters, I think.
Right.
He was the only one who got nicknamed Rudy out of all of them that were named Rudiger. I digress. But we're catching up with him. He is a young lad. He is in Joliet, Illinois, which is right on very close to the Illinois-Indiana border. It's about 90 minutes or so away from South Bend, Indiana. And if you are growing up in that part of the world, there's a very good chance that you're going to be a fan of Notre Dame Fighting Irish football. You're going to watch it every Saturday with your dad, with your whole family. It is a way of life there, Michaela.
It is a way of life there, whether you are going to that school or not. It's interesting because I identify more with that with other sports than football, because it's a college sport. So you would think that you'd only be a sport fanatic for one that you went to school with, but that is not the way it is at all. It's very much ingrained into, and especially for Notre Dame, I find it really interesting because even in Texas, we have the Aggies and we have the Longhorns. Those are kind of really two prolific teams in Texas, and you only really are going to be fans of them if you went or you wanted to go to that school. I don't know. It just seems really much more intrinsic into the culture of that area of Illinois, where whether you can go to school there, went to school there, couldn't go there, no, nobody in your family ever went there, you're still showing up on the TV and with your family watching a game. Even to this day, which is so neat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Central Ohio, and there's two things that are true about people They're from Ohio. Their favorite thing in the whole world is Ohio State football, and their favorite team in the whole world is Ohio State football. And that is the same for people in Michigan with the Wolverines and Indiana, obviously Notre Dame. That part of the country takes their college sports very seriously, and we're getting a good glimpse into that. Like I said, we're seeing young Rudy there playing some pickup football there, talking about his dreams to one day play for Notre Dame. You get kind of this nice snapshot of Rudy going through like Newt Rockney's like halftime speech, very impassioned. He jumps up there, he's hanging out with his friend in his bedroom, going through that whole thing. And yeah, you get the hint that this is this kid's lifelong dream. He wants to go play for Notre Dame, playing high school football, even there at his last practice, still not giving up. I really like and kind of resonates that kind of last scene on his last day of senior practice when the coach is like, this is the last time you're any of you are ever going to play football again. Sorry about that, guys. but Rudy still has it in his heart. He's not going to give up on this dream. He is going to go and one day play for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But things don't always go as planned. Sometimes you graduate high school, you are industrial manufacturing part of Illinois, you're going to go work at I don't even know what it was, the iron smelt with your dad and like 100 of your brothers. But your best friend works there. So I guess that's good.
Yeah. And what a best friend. I think his best friend is named Pete. And Pete really understands Rudy's love for Notre Dame. He actually saves up some money and he finds like a secondhand Letterman's jacket, which I don't even know. I'm today, those things would get burned before you'd sell them, right? But Pete scrounges up his, some money and he gives it to Rudy for his, I think his 21st or 22nd birthday. And Rudy is just so overwhelmed with that. It just shows how much Pete is like, oh, you're going to get there. You're going to save up some money. It's going to be fine. We're going to figure it out. And it's really cool because he's the only one in the entire world that at this point who believes in Rudy in the way that Rudy believes in Rudy. His family has pretty much told him, hey, that's just not going to happen. His father's said, that dream is not, it's everybody's dream, but this is reality. His brother's his older brother's a jerk about it, teases him about it. The girl that he's been with forever is like, look, I just want to get married. I found us a 1-bedroom shack. Let's buy this place and have a bunch of kids. Like, why are you still thinking about this? Time has moved on and you're not going to go to school there. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
but Rudy stays with it.
Yeah, he does. It draws a lot of the same kind of parallels to like Good Will Hunting and kind of that, community there, right? We talked about, a couple weeks ago. So, when you're from towns like these, about as good as you can ever expect is, to marry, to get out, get married, to get a house and to get a job at whatever the local industry is there. You follow kind of your father's footsteps. If your father was a policeman, then you're going to be a policeman. If your father was, an accountant, you would go and be an accountant. You would do whatever the family did, and the family, in this instance, worked at this steel mill kind of thing. And his dad even kind of lays out his future for him. He says, one of the guys at the other plant is getting promoted, so your older brother is going to take his job, and then you can take your brother's job. And Rudy's like, that's not what I want for myself. I want to go to Notre Dame. But there's some trouble there, Michaela. Those who don't know, Notre Dame is a really good school. Really good school. You have to be pretty smart to just go to Notre Dame. You can't just coast by and get into Notre Dame. And Rudy, not the best student, as we find out. On an organized bus trip to go to South Bend, Indiana, to do a little tour of Notre Dame, gets pulled right off of the bus. His teacher at this Catholic school he's going to pulls him off and is like, Rudy, listen. And I actually thought he was pretty nice about it, for being back in the 60s or whatever. But he's like, Rudy, listen, some of us just aren't cut out to do things like go to Notre Dame, and that's you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, but I mean, who is it going to hurt if he goes? I mean, anyway, that broke my heart a little bit because all he wanted to do was see it. And and the guy's like, this isn't a tourist bus. Like, you're going to go, you're never going to get in. So what's the point? But Pete believes in him, and Pete is his number one fan of this dream. Until unfortunately Pete's killed in a mill explosion. And it really upsets Rudy, obviously. I mean, as it would. But Rudy kind of has this moment of clarity after Pete's death. And he leaves in the middle of the night. He leaves his girl. He leaves his family. His girl's like, I'm not waiting for you. And he's like, that's cool. He doesn't seem real bothered by that because he knows he's got to get on a bus and he's got to go to South Bend and he's got to talk to somebody about how to make his dream happen, which is actually really amazing. I think that is one of the coolest things about this film. And the shot, it's not cinemagraphically like amazing, but I love this part because he's pretty young, but he's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to go talk to someone. I got to figure it out. So he like knocks on the door at the school. The security guard's like, what are you doing? Admissions isn't open for 3 hours. And he's like, well, I got to talk to somebody. I got to talk to somebody about getting into school. Like, I got to figure out how am I going to do this? And, he ends up meeting this really cool priest, because of course priests are supposed to be open and up anytime for their folks. Father John Kavanaugh, played by the amazing Robert Prosky. Love this character actor so much. And then the scene where he's Rudy's trying to talk to him and say, I'm really ready to make this change. Whatever I have to do. And of course, Father Kavanaugh is like, you want to join the priesthood? And Rudy's like, no, I want to play Notre Dame. And it's a pretty funny exchange.
Yeah, I love it. They're sitting there, and he's like, "I just came from my best friend's funeral," and the priest is like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." But yeah, he's like, he just wants to go to Notre Dame. So the priest here is gonna be helpful. He's like, I don't know anything about you, kid, but I know that you probably aren't going to be getting into Notre Dame right now. So what I can do though is I can pull some favors. I can get you into the community college here in town, and maybe you go there for a semester, and if you do good enough, then they'll keep you on for another semester, and then if you do good enough for long enough, maybe you can get into Notre Dame. So Rudy says that sounds like a great idea, so that's what he's going to go do. He's going to enroll, start taking some classes. He meets his friend D-Bob, who is played by Jon Favreau, very, very young, very baby-faced Jon Favreau, and he's going to kind of agree to take Rudy on as his tutor. I kind of like their kind of like initial like friendship, I guess. D-Bob says, I will tutor you, but I'm not very good with the ladies. You seem like you're a pretty charming guy. Ladies seem to be drawn to you. I don't know what it is about Sean Astin. Girls are into him, but D-Bob says, kind of quid pro quo. I will help you get smart. You help me with the girls. And then you get kind of this funny montage of, Rudy just trying to play wingman for D-Bob. It's pretty good. But D-Bob is important for the life and the trajectory of Rudy, because D-Bob says, yeah, you're kind of smart. I don't really understand why you're not getting all this. Maybe something more is afoot here. And this is definitely something that wouldn't have gone diagnosed in the 1960s, 1970s, and maybe not even today. But turns out our good friend Rudy here was dyslexic, and that is playing a big part in why I wasn't able to do so good in school.
Yeah. If you can't read, that is really hard. It's hard to do anything like read books and talk about their meanings and, read math and do math equations. If the numbers or the letters don't look right to you, it's very hard to do that. It's amazing when people get help for those learning difficulties, how their minds are just as brilliant as anybody else's. So that is really neat. I love that montage that you were talking about because, it's not like Rudy is doing anything special. He's talking to women and being quiet and listening to them. And they're fawning over him like he is like Elvis Presley or something. And then he'll point to D-Bob, and D-Bob, he refuses to say a word to them. He gets so tongue-tied and so nervous. And so it's really funny. One girl does come up to them and is talking to D-Bob, and it looks like she's really legitimately asking D-Bob to a dance, and he will not say anything to her. He won't answer her. He won't look at her in the face. Rudy's doing all the talking, and it turns out to be a really great thing for D-Bob because that girl ends up being kind of a long-term relationship. At least I don't know if they get married or what, but it all works out, and it's a great friendship for Rudy, which is really cool because he doesn't have a lot of people that believe in him. When he shows up, he's trying to get a job because he saved all his money for tuition, and the tuition is for Holy Cross. It's not for Notre Dame, but he loves everything Notre Dame. He tries to get into the booster club and help like put on their helmets. And this, is really, to me, one of my favorite scenes from kind of a cinematographic standpoint is he's in the locker room and he's there. The camera's following him through all of the kind of stations as he is being this booster. And so back in the day, right, you would legitimately paint the helmets every game because the helmets would get scuffed and they'd get gross. And, you'd clean them and you'd spray paint them with gold paint because you needed to be green and gold. And he's like helping, and all of the stations where you see them suiting up, you see kind of the locker area, you see the showers, you see people sewing on numbers on the back because these uniforms are just babied and cared for so much by the boosters. Is really a really cool scene. But Rudy's doing everything he can, including going and working for almost free as a groundskeeper under Mr. Fortune.
That's right. Yeah, he offers to go and work for free. The character Fortune, if you read kind of any of the backstory, is kind of an amalgamation of a couple people that the actual Rudy Rudiger knew at his time here. But this groundskeeper Fortune, he takes him on. He's like, well, I'm not minimum wage kid. I know you need some money, so I'm not going to work for free. But Rudy is one of those guys. He's just going to keep pestering you until he's able to achieve the things that he wants to achieve. And Fortune ends up being a really good kind of mentor, role model for Rudy. Really kind of takes him under his wing, gives him good advice when he needs it, gives him a place to stay when he needs it. As you mentioned, Michaela, he doesn't have any money. He used all of his money for kind of his tuition, so he didn't have any money left over for an apartment, room and board, anything like that. So he's trying to like break into the kind of the groundskeepers like office things to sleep there. But Fortune kind of sees him unlocking the window and leaves out a blanket and a key so he doesn't have to sneak in through the window. It's one of those unspoken things. But Fortune really can kind of admire Rudy, his tenacity, his work ethic, and just trying to help the kid get ahead. But unfortunately, like we'd mentioned, Michaela, getting into Notre Dame is tough. So you get kind of this montage of Rudy studying and helping D-Bob meet girls, going to work for Fortune there, doing the groundskeeping, doing this booster stuff. You get still working out, because the ultimate dream is to play for Notre Dame. And you get some really kind of neat visuals of him running around the stadium and stuff like that. But yeah, hard to get into. And each of these little scenes is, kind of cut with him getting a rejection letter from Notre Dame as each of these kind of semesters are going by, and we finally get to his junior year, and he has one kind of last shot. If he doesn't get in his junior year, he's not going to be able to walk onto the team. Notre Dame doesn't take walk-ons to the football team in your senior year, so he needs to be in there by a junior. And thankfully, you get a really gorgeous scene. He takes his last kind of letter out and sits in front of this pond. You can see the campus of Notre Dame, and behind this pond, he's kind of looking at it, opens his letter. Praise be, made it into the University of Notre Dame. Good school. He's going to get a good education, but he has enough time left to go try out for the football team.
That's right. And that's one of the things that Fortune continues to impress upon him is that, hey, you have this dream about football and that's really cool, but you just got a ticket into one of the most, creme de la creme, educational institutions in the world, because that's exactly what Notre Dame was at the time, if not is now, right? So he's like, look, complain all you want about how hard this is, but this is going to change the trajectory of your life no matter what. You're definitely going to be in a different place. You're not going to go back and work in a steel mill anymore. Like you're going to have a real education, which is hugely, important. And so it's really cool because when he goes in and he practices and he tries out for the team, it actually, fun fact, it uses the same song, the same score for that piece as a part in Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting because if you can find the part in Good Will Hunting where where it matches up, the score matches up, it's really kind of neat. But the kind of montage of him trying out where everyone is like, man, he's all heart. Rudy Rudiger was not super tall. He was short. He wasn't very fast. He wasn't like this token player that everybody, I guess there's I don't know enough about football, but I guess there's a body content that you're supposed to have in order to be great. And he did not have any of it. But what he did do is he would get beat up and then he would get right back up. And he never said no. He never stopped. He just continued to have that determination.
Yeah, and it really is highlighted in kind of those practice sessions, but also kind of in like this very like first session, the first time he has like an encounter with the actual football team. He's there like waiting outside of the practice facility. This is even before he gets into Notre Dame. He's waiting for the team to come out because he wants to talk to the coach again, right? Rudy is going to force his way in through these doors, but he's going and the team's coming out. And Sean Austin's about 5'7" tall, according to the internet research that I just did right this second. And all the football players are coming out, and they're all 6'3", 6'4", outweigh him by like 200 pounds. They just look like these giants of people, right? He is looking a little hobbity kind of there as we're on the football field with, these, some of the best athletes in the whole country that are, going to Notre Dame to play football. So I love that. I also love when he gets admitted into Notre Dame, he goes home for Christmas and takes the acceptance letter into his dad. And there's like a brief second where you don't know how his dad is going to react because, his dad, his brothers, have been very naysayery on his dreams, right? Like you're going to follow your dreams, you're going to get crushed, and then you're going to come back here and work here anyway. So why don't you just do that? So there's like the split second where you don't know if his dad is going to be supportive of him or not, but he is, and it's awesome. He goes over like the loudspeaker there at the mill and tells everyone that his son's going to Notre Dame. Super proud dad moment there, which is pretty awesome. Probably kind of my favorite scene, I guess, besides the kind of penultimate scene at the end, of course. But really great stuff. And now that he's made it into Notre Dame, he's made it onto the practice squad, things seem to be going well. He has a good relationship with the coach. The coach said, you're not really cut out to play football for Notre Dame, but when we get to your senior year, I'll put you into a game. That way you get your name on the record books. Your family can come and see you. Everyone will be happy. We'll give a toast with an Irish 75. Things will be good. But
Right.
Bad news, that coach leaves. New coach comes in. This coach seems like a grumpy coach. Not going to let Rudy do that. He says, we only get 65 players on the sideline. One of them's not going to be Rudy. Look at that guy. He can't do it for sure.
That's right. I mean, it's really tough too, because even the other players, at first, they don't take him seriously either. And in fact, one of them, I think it might be Vince Vaughn. This is one of Vince Vaughn's. Yeah, is like, what are you doing? Like, why do you keep getting up and stop it? You're gonna kill yourself. And he's like, look, it's my job to wear you out. You will not be the best that you can be unless I give it my all and have you kick the crap out of me. That's how it works, apparently, in football. And so the entire team kind of comes together and says, hey, we really believe that you could give him my spot, coach, and there's this really beautiful scene where they come in and each of the players give his jersey to the new coach. That's not how it really went down, but it's really beautiful and very dramatic, and that's cool. And so he gets in. He finally gets his name on the roster for the last game of the season. He tells his parents, he's like, you guys got to show up. His father and his whole family actually had never been to a football game in person because it's expensive. It's an hour and a half away. So
when you have 14 kids or whatever, everything's expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean, so it was a really big deal in any time, right, for them to go to a game, and to have their son be in it was really cool. I know that I love the scene where his dad and his mom are getting off the bus, trying to find their way to get their tickets, and how proud they look. I mean, it's just everybody who has parents that, wants them to be proud. It's a really heartfelt moment. And so they all kind of pack in to this incredibly loud, jam-packed stadium. And it was one of the biggest stadiums at the time. Maybe it was the biggest stadium at the time. It might have been even bigger than kind of the professional NFL leagues.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. It definitely would have been a very large facility then. It's still a large facility now, and even bigger than it was then, for sure. But yeah, the family gets there to see the game. D-Bob, and his love go there to watch the game. Fortune has promised to go to a game. If Rudy ever got to dress and go out with the field. So everyone is there to kind of see this last game, to see Rudy there on the sideline. But the team, they pull Rudy to the front. He's going to lead the team out of the tunnel. It's pretty awesome. Very inspirational moment there as he leads the team out onto the field. And you think you get through the game. Rudy's going to, he's dressed. He's on the sideline. That's an amazing achievement. But there's one more kind of trick up the sleeve. The team scores one kind of last second touchdown to give the defense one more kind of crack at going in to play. So the coach relents, lets Rudy go in. He goes in on the kickoff team. And I love this part so much. Little Sean Astin, Rudy, after the kickoff, he's running back to the sideline. He has and the coach is like, just stay out there. He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But it's so awesome. He stays out there, and then in the film there, he records a sack, which is true. He did record a sack in the 3 plays that he played for Notre Dame. That's a factual part of the story there. So gets the sack. The whole stadium is chanting Rudy. The team picks him up onto his shoulders and carry him out of there. As a hero for an inspiration for the players there at Notre Dame, all the people that he helped and touched along the way, and very inspirational for us, the viewers at home. And I know Rudy Rudiger did a lot of kind of motivational speaking and stuff around the time that this movie came out, really kind of capitalized on the popularity of this. But yeah, very, very uplifting and very emotional. That music swells up, Michaela, and you can't help but be moved by Rudy Rudiger.
That's right. No, it's a beautiful, very heartfelt ending. And it's not, again, this really isn't about football. I mean, maybe it was about football for Rudy, but anybody watching it, I don't know much about football at all. I'm the biggest 2%er when it comes to this game. So I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but just the determination itself, being told that you're not smart enough, being told that you don't have the body type, being told that you're not fast enough, being told that you're not tall enough. There are things that, are beyond his control, because again, he had a learning disability that was undiagnosed that he didn't know about. All of these things, he can't help how tall he is. He can't help the body that he was given and his DNA structure. But what he could control, he absolutely did over and over again, and he didn't give up. And that's why it's so beautiful that even though, he wasn't the quarterback, but he told, he probably had more of an impact on the people around him than any one football game did. I'm going to say that because I'm not a football fan, but maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, tell me all about it. You guys can hit me up in the Discord and tell me how wrong I am.
That's right. You have 4 downs to go 10 yards, and you get 6 points for a touchdown, Michaela. That's all you need to know. Right. And you need to know that Rudy was a very inspirational story. There's some really, kind of bright spots of this movie for me. I really like Charles S. Dutton's portrayal in the film as the groundskeeper Fortune. I really love kind of his interactions and the way that he is on one hand keeping Rudy at arm's length, but on the other hand taking him under his wing. I really like that stuff. And then you mentioned kind of the cinematography of this thing, and that, nothing is like super epic looking, but this all was filmed on Notre Dame's campus in South Bend, Indiana, which by all accounts, I've never been there myself. So it's just been, pictures and, watching college football and kind of that stuff there. But by all accounts, it's one of the most beautiful places a person could go. So it looks really great, even though there aren't any big sweeping shots, but just little snippets of the way that this campus looks is really gorgeous. And then Sean Astin's the best. Sean Astin has been in a lot of things. He's been in Goonies, we talked about. He's in Lord of the Rings, that one day we'll talk about for sure. And he's in this movie. And there's one thing about Sean Astin is that anytime he's on your screen, you root for Sean Astin because he's the best.
He is the best. I think one of the things, he's got this really just wonderful likability about him. And I think he was the perfect casting for this, because he's got the stature where he's not super tall. Yeah, he's got that, kind of stockier, sturdy build. So, he's not going to be, I guess, the Peyton Manning or the Tom Brady, right? He doesn't look like that. But he's got this determination in the way he moves the facial muscles I don't really know how to explain it, but like the way he's talking about when he's talking about how he wants to do this, how he's talking about the death of his friend, there's a part where he's at a bar talking to a girl about how he's always wanted to go to Notre Dame and his grades have never been good and they're finally good. And the way that he lets out this sigh as he's saying these lines, it's so believable and it's just wonderful. And in everything he does, we're rooting for him, right? I mean, he's just, D-Bob knew he was like, you just go talk to women and eventually one of them will like me. It'll be fine.
That's right. Yeah, he has this kind of gracious sincerity about him that's just very magnifying. He does it very well. But Michaela, so this came out in 1993. We would have been like going into like junior high, middle school, right around then. But do you remember seeing this movie like back when it came out? I feel like this movie was a fairly big deal, but that might just be because kind of that time in our lives, that was when you started getting like dropped off to go see movies by yourself and with your friends and stuff like that. So I don't know if it resided more in that way or if it really was a big deal. Because it didn't do like gangbusters at the box office by any means, but it still felt like a movie and a story that everyone knew. Maybe it's because, like I said, I grew up in Ohio, so this story was very, very personal to a lot of people that live in that kind of Midwestern region of the country. But what about you? 1993? Did you see Rudy?
I did not see it in the theater. I remember seeing it probably my freshman year in college, maybe. Freshman, sophomore year in college. So that would have been the early 2000s. So, I was late to the game. I had a really good friend.
You're like, why is this Hobbit playing football? I don't understand.
Right. I don't understand what's happening. But I had a really good friend who went to Notre Dame. And so they were like, you don't know this story. And I was, again, biggest 2%er in football ever. I was like, there's a ball and it's not a soccer ball. What's going on? So I was very late to this party, but I really loved the story, especially at the time in my own personal life. I was really struggling trying to get through a very tough math program. And I'm like, well, if Rudy can get into, Notre Dame and play football, I can figure out this topography, geometrical topography. Certainly I can do I can work hard for one semester. He worked hard for like 65 years to get to where he was. So, I found that to be very inspiring. And again, it's fall. And this movie just I don't know why. But it's such a fall film for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely has that fall feeling, and it must have been shot and filmed in fall, obviously, because it's all revolving around kind of this football program. So the fall in South Bend, Indiana, must be a nice place to go and watch the leaves change, I suppose. But as a big fan of sports movies, I'm also not like a huge sports fan. I will certainly watch sports and understand most of the intricacies of them better than Michaela. But there's something about sports movies that I've just always really been drawn to, just kind of the elevation and the camaraderie and just all of that stuff, just is, really kind of captivates me. So Rudy's always been one of the best ones, and I hadn't watched it in a long time until I just watched it, over the weekend to get ready for this. So definitely a good one. So definitely let us know if you watched Rudy. Let us know what your thoughts are on it, or let us know what your favorite sports movie is, and let us know if you make an Irish 75 to go along with it, because we definitely want to see it. It is definitely a good fall treat. So mix one of those up and send us pictures and let us know all that stuff. You can do it on our Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/drinkthemovies. If you want to get recipes, pictures of ours, you can do that on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want to check out our Discord server, the link is in our link tree thing on all of our social medias, or just send us a message. We'll get you an invite over there. But we're talking cocktails, movies, TV shows, all kinds of things that are awesome. So definitely want to come check that out and share all that stuff with us there. But Michaela, what else would help? It would help us have a perfect season, just like the Notre Dame Fighting Irish did. I actually don't know if they had a perfect season that year or not, but I know that Rudy was perfect on his plays. But what would help would be a perfect 5-star review. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can do that on Apple Podcasts. You can do that on Spotify, Stitcher, Good Pods, all of the places that support Anchor Podcasts. You can go on to your favorite one You can leave us a 5-star review or a 10 out of 10 or whatever, 50 ducks out of 50 ducks, whatever it is. It really helps us get the Drink the Movies out there. Once again, our numbers keep climbing. We've had the best week again that we've ever had. So it's I don't know what we're doing, but I guess people are liking it. So that's awesome. If you're liking it, tell your friends, leave us a 5-star review, join our Patreon, get on the Discord with us, do all the things, because we're super excited and we're loving the community that y'all are building, and you guys are doing it, not us. We're just two kids talking about movies and drink.
And drinking. And next week we are going to be mixing up something for the kids and something for the adults as we whip up a butterbeer and dive headfirst into the wizarding world of Harry Potter. We're going to be making our first trip to Hogwarts and talking Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone slash Philosopher's Stone. Call it whatever you will, but we're going to be calling it something next time on
Drink the
the
movies.
Rudy.
Never stop believing.